Hello everyone, I'm Philippa Amy. Today I wanted to take the time to talk about a few concepts that are helpful in understanding the topic of digital media and surveillance. The first concept I'd like to introduce to you is that of the Panopticon. The term Panopticon was first used by English philosopher Jeremy Bentham in discussing the relationship between hierarchy, power and discipline. To quote Bentham, "The more constantly the persons to be inspected under the eyes of the persons who should inspect them, the more perfectly will the purpose of the establishment have been attained. Ideal perfection, if that were the object, would require that each person should actually be in the predicament during every instant of time. That being impossible, the next best thing to be wished for is that at every instant, seeing reason to believe as much, and not being able to satisfy himself to the contrary, he should conceive himself to be so." Basically, the purpose of the establishment in maintaining power over the individual is to have the individual believe that he's being watched at every second. But in the 1970s, Michel Foucault looked at this concept of the Panopticon in relation to the everyday individual in society and the use of CCTV. Surveillance techniques have been increasingly embedded in today's society. We have CCTV, monitored phone calls, and facial recognition. Just knowing there are these technologies available and potential viewers is enough to make us self-discipline our behaviour. In that way, these surveillance technologies in our society work in a top-to-bottom hierarchy, where it's these larger organisations keeping a watchful eye over the individual. This brings me to my next point. With the increase in availability of handheld digital recording devices such as smartphones, we now see this top-to-bottom structure inverted, so now it's the individual turning the gaze of the camera towards the establishment. This is something that Mann, Nolan and Wellman describe as Sousveillance. Souveillance draws upon the French word sous, meaning under, and veiller, meaning to watch. Sousveillance has come about to disrupt the disempowering nature of surveillance and restore balance to an otherwise one-sided surveillance society. Basically, Sousveillance is an act of liberation. If we look for examples of where surveillance and surveillance intersect in today's society, look no further than the police. The police are the most visible of the law enforcement agencies. They surveil us both in everyday in the streets and also on behalf of the establishment. And yet in recent times, and particularly regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, they've also become the subject of surveillance, as many individuals turn their cameras towards the police to film their interactions with them. As an increasing amount of police interactions are filmed and circulated online via YouTube, the more the power balance between the police and the public becomes subverted as they face criticism for their actions. If you'd like to hear more about this topic of the police, surveillance and surveillance, you can head over to my blog post. In the meantime, thank you for joining me today.